Hey guys, so I'm in my room right now and I was just kind of sitting here, um, thinking about some stuff, and one of the things that I have been wanting to talk about on this channel for a while is kind of, my family dynamics and why I am the way that I am in terms of body dysmorphia, anxiety, depression. I just wanted to talk about why I am like this, and why I'm so insecure. I think I've always been this way. So even before the whole braces, body dysmorphia thing, I was bullied a lot as a kid. I was left out. I think more than the bullying, I think I was ignored. And I don't mean that in like an on purpose ignoring, because I think most people just kind of forgot I existed. That's not to say that there weren't rude people, but I genuinely think that I'm one of those people who is just forgotten. So throughout my entire life, I have been kind of ignored, put on the sidelines. I did cheerleading, I did track. I've always tried to fit in. And the same goes for my school life, my high school career, my middle school career. When I was in elementary school, I tried to fit in. And my home life, I've always felt like the black sheep everywhere I go, at home and at school. So my family dynamic has always been, I'm like the least favorite child. I have two sisters, one on my mom's side, one on my dad's side. And I've always felt like they were both favored over me, even though I'm the oldest grandchild on both sides of my family. I've always felt kind of left out. And, when I broke my ankles not long ago, I've been thinking about that and just thinking about how, if it was any other grandchild, or it would be much different and they would care a lot more. But since it's me, it's not a big deal. I just feel, sometimes I feel like I've always felt like there's something wrong with me. And that's why people don't like me. And when I was a little kid, I didn't understand, because I felt like, maybe, I really didn't understand why people didn't like me when I was a kid, because even adults didn't like me. It was very weird. It was like they would act strangely around me. Like, yeah, as a kid, I was super high energy, ADHD. I liked to go outside and play. I wasn't super feminine, so like dressing me up was really difficult. Felt like all of the people that my dad ever dated, the women, they didn't like me. They would bully me. They would, verbally and physically abuse me. And because of that, I became very introverted and very shy, because I felt like if I showed who I really was, then I would just get abused. So I kind of grew up with my family not really accepting me for who I am, or embracing me. I think that's a better way to put it. They didn't really embrace me. They didn't really care. They never, think really one of the big reasons I have body dysmorphia is the lack of acceptance and love I've gotten. Not just from people that aren't my family, but just my family as a whole. Everything I've ever done has never been good enough. Nothing is ever good enough for my mom. Nothing is ever noteworthy for my dad. My grandparents and my aunts and uncles never gave two shits about me. Just recently, I actually told my father, when he was messaging me, he was asking me about my ankles, because this is the first time in 20 years that my father has actually inquired about my life, and it's when I'm like hurt. It's the first time. And so I told him, I was like, you know, it's really weird how no one has really reached out to me, because I'm in a tremendous amount of like pain and stress, and it just feels like if it was any other cousin or any other child or if it was my sibling or something, or my cousin or my aunt or uncle, they would all have a lot of like support and care. But because it's me, I just get ignored. And so I told my dad that straight up. I just wanted to be honest and just tell him that how it felt for me being that odd person out. And I think he went and he told my entire family basically that, because I started getting an influx of like messages, and I was like, why did they have to be told to come and support me? I don't know. Sometimes I think, screw them, I don't need them, but having family that loves you and supports you unconditionally is important. It's important for childhood development. It's important for you growing into a stable adult. And I think because I never got that, I'm so mentally unwell and not okay with myself and who I am, and I will never be okay with myself, I don't think. I don't know. There are people who are older that I've met online who still have trouble with their childhoods because they never got that love from their family. They never got, the attention, everything that, a child needs, they just never got. And it's just unfortunate because they could have grown into someone who was secure, but they're anxious and avoidant now. So I want to rebuild that relationship with my family. My dynamic with them has always been very weird because when I was a kid, there were a few like custody battles and things like that. I had a bit of a rough childhood. I don't talk about it at all on this channel. But to put it a bit gracefully, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if I put it gracefully. My family was full of addiction. And it was hard stuff, like meth, heroin, alcohol, cocaine. This video is probably going to get demonetized, but it doesn't matter. I don't really make that much money anyway, but my family was just full of addiction. My mother, my aunts, uncles, my father at a certain point. It was just unstable in general. So I also feel like there's a bit of like an abandonment thing for me, which is why my body dysmorphia is probably so bad, because insecurity, home insecurity, I didn't have really home. I moved a lot as a kid, like 10 plus times. Went to many different schools, probably like 7, maybe, I don't know. I went to many different schools, a couple different preschools, a couple different elementary schools, a couple different middle schools, same high school. I stayed throughout high school. but it was pretty rough moving around a lot, and having, you know, a mother who was addicted was also super rough on me, because it always felt like she had something better to do than pay attention to her kids. So that's just how I grew up, and I think it definitely transferred over into my adulthood, because now I feel super insecure, not understanding that not everyone is going to leave you, and sometimes people can care about you. It's really, really difficult for me to understand that. So childhood trauma plays a lot into who I am as a person today. I know a lot about myself in terms of, you know, my mental health and things like that. I have really, really good insight on what is wrong with me. And I've told my therapist this, and, you know, we've been working on things like CBT and DBT. I am planning on going to, after, well, actually, I just went to the orthopedic surgeon yesterday, and I talked about my ankles. I got 2 new casts on, red and black. They match my room. Got 2 new casts on, and after, actually, I don't have to wait for anything really. I'm going to call a PHP place tomorrow so that I can get into PHP. And because I'm in a wheelchair right now, they will transport me to and from, which is really helpful for me, obviously, because I can't go anywhere at this point. But I'm going to a PHP place because I know that my body dysmorphia is not getting better at this rate. And I know that sitting in bed all day is not going to make it any better. So at the very least, getting out and going and doing something will help me. So those are plans for the future, my mental health and things like that. I haven't been working on it recently. I have been preoccupied. I'm healed up from surgery for the most part. It's been 2 weeks. So I got my stitches taken out yesterday, and that was a little bit painful. Owie. They just like yanked it out. Like, they were like, oh yeah, this won't be that bad. And they just like, and I was like, what the hell? It just hurt. It felt like they were ripping off like a really big scab or something. It hurt. I was like, ugh, why'd you do that? It still hurts, actually. It's like, I don't know how to put it. It's like stinging still. It still stings. They put a Band-Aid and stuff on it, but it sucks. So I looked at the x-rays. I wish I could show you, but I don't have them in person. There's like a screw right there, right in between. It's one. I only needed one, but the incision was like down my shin and across the top of my foot. So I have a lot of stitches, I had a lot of stitches like across the top of my foot. Anyway, that's an update on my foot. I can't walk on either of them yet. I have a shoe just in case I need to balance myself with the right foot, because that's not the surgery foot. So that's that. I'm still going to be using my wheelchair for a while until I can, get on crutches, or I can get one of those, it's like a moving foot rest thing where I can walk on one foot and then carry the other one, which would help me a lot. I don't know how that's going to work, but anyway, back to like family stuff. So I guess we could focus on like my dad, maybe. I haven't really ever had like the best relationship with my dad, because I think a big part of my trauma comes from the people that he chose to date. So my father, he dated a few women, 2 of which were verbally abusive to me. They bullied me. I have massive trust and anxiety issues. Like, I cannot trust people, like, for months and months. I have anxiety around new people. I'm afraid people are going to steal from me. I'm afraid people are going to, like, hurt me. I'm so scared of everything because, well, the second person he dated, she would, it's almost unbelievable some of the stuff that she would do to me. You know, she would break my things, and she would hide my things. She would sabotage my food. She stole my diary. Like, it was never physical, but it was always things that she knew she could get away with, like throwing cat poop in my room, and then just on my bed, you know, just cat poop on my bed. So I would come home from a long day of like school or drama club or something, and I would just be tired and wanting to eat something, and then I'd just see cat poop on my bed, and I would just start crying because that happened probably a total of 5 times, I would say. So, yeah. There was another time I found fingernails in my soup. Another time I was accused of biting into a piece of cheese, gnawing on it, apparently, when I didn't. I had broken a piece off, I didn't chew on it, and then she kept insisting that I did, and then I got in trouble. There was another time, I have so many stories, just awful, awful things. Another time I left ravioli in the fridge because we didn't really have a lot of food. We also didn't have a lot of dishes. So I put it in the fridge with like a napkin over it. It was a can. I put it in the fridge with a napkin over it and a rubber band on top of it because we didn't have any plastic containers. And I realized like it had been moved, and I opened it and I smelled it, and it smelled like hot sauce. And so I tasted it, and there was like half a bottle of hot sauce put in there. Like, I was eating it and I was just like, this is literally so spicy. And I asked my dad to taste it, right? And I won't forget, like, this was one of the first times I, like, actually told him, like, what was happening and how I was being, like, bullied and, like, tormented, basically. I was 12 to 18 when all of this was going on. I didn't have my mother because she was in prison. And I was 12 to 18 when all of this was happening. So my stepmom was basically being a bully to me, right? I was a kid. I was a little kid. I was 12 years old, 15, you know, like, I told my dad that she had, like, tampered with my food, and he tasted it and he said, I don't see anything wrong. And that was the start of him excusing everything she did, excusing stealing my things, breaking my things. I always thought if I got something that she would take it from me, so I always had to hide my things. I hid my things. I would tell my friends to keep them at their house because I trusted them more than I trusted living at my own house. I think the entire time I lived there for 5-6 years, I was like dissociating from everything. I was dissociating from the fact that I was hungry all the time. We didn't have a lot of food, obviously. We weren't super rich or anything. I was dissociating from the fact that I lived in a toxic household where nobody talked to me. Like, my stepmom never talked to me. She never spoke to me. She would just be passive aggressive and huff and puff at me, and then, like, tell my dad right in front of me that, like, there's something wrong with me. I lived like that from the time I was 12 to the time I was 18. I didn't have my mom. My mom was in prison. I lived with my dad. My dad was never home. I had it rough from that point. And then I moved straight out when I was 18 when my mom got out of prison, and I moved in with her. And that's where I've been for the past almost 5 years. So for that amount of time, I lived with people who gaslit me and bullied me and took my things. and I lived without, food, sometimes without like heat, water. Sometimes it would just go off in the middle of like showering or washing dishes or something. It was rough. It was really rough, and it affects me to this day because I have a food hoarding problem. I have an anxiousness problem. I have a lot of issues that stem from living there. And it's really traumatized me. I've talked about it in therapy. Hasn't really helped. It's still all there in my mind. It's still all there in my heart. And the fact that nobody believed me. Nobody believed me. My dad didn't believe me, or he just pretended to not believe me. All I could do was talk to my mom about it when she was in prison. And to this day, it's never been addressed. Even by my father. He doesn't care about what she did. The only person who really believes me, well, people who believe me, are my mom's side of the family and my sister, obviously. But yeah, that's a bit of a lot of trauma dumping right there, but it's just a little insight into my life, and probably a big part of why I'm so scared and insecure of people, because growing up, I never had people that I could trust and rely on that loved me. Only people that cared about themselves and wanted to make my life miserable, or people that abandoned me, or people that didn't believe me. And still sometimes I'll have dreams of my dad like abandoning me, like on the side of a road, or not believing me when I tell him that someone's being like a bully to me and someone's hurting me. And it's terrifying. It's one of the scariest like dreams I've had. Scarier than any other dream, really, is being abandoned. Anyway, so that's really all I have to talk about for now. That should give, a little bit of background information on me and who I am and how I grew up. I'm still like working on it in therapy, obviously, but I know a lot of people have rough childhoods and they've overcome them, and I'm hoping that I'm the same way. I'm hoping that I can get over it before, I'm in my 40s, that I'm still thinking about how I was hurt when I was younger and how I didn't have anyone. I want to fix that. I want to fix that mentality that I have, because it's not good for me, and I know that. But yeah, that's all I really have to talk about for now. I'm probably going to go and prop my feet up because my foot is starting to hurt, but thank you guys for listening to me today. I know it was a lot to take in, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Goodbye.